All right. I'm on
Really
my.
on its way to them too. I
I'm
don't fuck around.
I'm live on my channel, and I wanted to this plate specifically because of the Olympic Games, and it's literally shining a light on him. He is the holy figure that LA needs.
No, I'm not a holy figure. I'm just a truth sayer that has
We'll
a
let
hell of a
you.
lot of experience. That's all it is.
You need to be quiet this time. Promise, please. Just like, please. You have to shake my hand, though, otherwise it doesn't count.
You're getting the fuck out of here if you're not.
Shake the hand. Come on. All right. This just like well, listen. Hold on. I gave you a chance. I did interview. I gave you like 2 hours solid. I interviewed you. That's fair. Fair is only fair. Then you can do whatever you want afterwards. But people need to know who George is because it's important. All right.
Okay, I got mine running. Yeah, I got mine running.
Is it running?
Okay, yeah.
All right, George. So people have heard about who George Buzzetti is, but I don't think people really understand really who George Buzzetti is. And what I wanted to ask is, how did you ever get involved with any of the city government of Los Angeles in tackling the wrongdoings? What actually got you to start? What's your origin story on getting involved in all that?
I'm going to take you back 50 years of how this all started. Originally in music, musician friends of mine did a lot of experiments with music when they played at frat parties, and I bounced. And we wanted to see if we could get music to affect how people acted. And we did purposeful experiments, and we found that we could keep people from fighting, and the college people reacted really well because they could party till 2 o'clock and all the rest of them got shut down at 10. So it turned out to where I never had to stop a fight. People would stop the fight so they could keep partying. Then I moved to San Diego, up on the top of Palomar, and a guru tried to take over the mountain where I lived. Well, that was a big damn mistake, and I got my hands on his book where he said he wanted to take over the mountain. Well, I took on 3 gurus, as it turns out, and destroyed them and their cults. I learned a lot about their personalities. I turned that guru into a drug addict and went into isolation for 15 years.
Who was that?
That was Ramakrishnananda, Graham V. Ledgewood from the Spiritual World Society. The other one was Donato of Morningland. If you all remember Doe of Heaven's Gate, do you remember the guy with the 27 Nike shoe guys?
Oh, yeah.
I own his magic chair. My friends made that chair for Donato, and Donato and Doe of Heaven's Gate used to sit in it and think that they got the power of the universe, you know, the force? Well, they believe that shit. So Donato gets all his friends out there at what are these religious deals, right? Where you get your top devotees, and he says, I'm gonna die, and then I'm gonna transport. You remember how on Star Trek they would transport and dissolve? Well, he convinced these people that was gonna happen. Well, the fucker dies, and guess what? He just laid on the ground and didn't transport. So after about a half an hour to 45 minutes, they had to call the meat wagon. Then they did, I remember Aaron Bronkovich, the lawyer that, well, back then he was a private investigator, so they hired him, and they found out that this guru was really selling a lot of psychedelics and shit. So about a month after the guru kills himself, we're at a party up at Palomar getting loaded and drinking and shit. And I traded a stained glass window for that chair, and later traded back, I don't remember what, and I got the window back. And the reason I got that chair is I know what people do with that kind of stuff, because I know what happened with the cult murder of Matamoros when they got their hands on his magic pot. It went to the federales witch doctor. Because when people die over this stuff, that becomes power, baby.
Is it fair to say that you worked with the CIA then?
No, I'm on my own operator, but I have worked national security before. My first job was at 18, being the only youth allowed to work on the SR-71, which was still top secret on one of the hottest parts of the plane, section over the hot section of the motor ran at 600 to 800 degrees normal. That's what I got trained on. I became quite a wizard in aerospace. But then it changed and it became just the corporate crap that everything is now, so I got the hell out of that.
Was that in LA?
That was in San Diego down there. And I traveled a lot. I was a hot shot, you know. They send us wherever because we could walk in and just take over the place. We had the highest level crew you'd ever seen before. And then I moved up to Palomar and this guru tried to take over. So, and then I had friends involved in cults in Hawaii. That guy was George Doobie. He was infamous in Interpol. In fact, when his wife killed him in Thailand, in a restaurant with everybody watching. They put capital crimes down there. This guy was so infamous, she only got 3 years, not murder. She didn't get the death penalty, which is amazing.
Did you ever grow up around the LA area?
I grew up in the Valley, yeah. I grew up like the way people see the Valley in movies. We had a horse, a pool. My parents had 11 kids, sent them to private school, had a cabin in the mountains, you know. Everybody skied but me because I was busy partying when they go skiing. Shit, man, we had the house, you know. But then when I moved back to LA, I moved in with a girlfriend and her son went to Bellflower, started at Bellflower High School. And I moved in with her about when school started. And the first week I see him coming home and there's no books. And I'm going, well, you know, it's the start of school, maybe there's no books. And after the second week I said, hey Mike, what's up with books? He said, we don't have any books to bring home. You seen that cartoon with the guy shooting stuff out his ear? That was me, baby, because I didn't go to public school. I had a real education. And I know damn good and well you can't learn nothing unless you can go home and study. So I went ballistic.
Is that how you got started with
That's how I
your
got
battles
started
with the
in
school
LA.
district? Yeah.
So my girlfriend and I, we went to a school board meeting. First she went to parents' night, okay? And she brought this up with the teacher, and the teacher said, well, why don't you go to a school board meeting? And we went, okay, well, let's go. So we both spoke. And unlike LA Unified, you're gonna love this. The board stopped as soon as we talked about no books, okay? I want to give you a difference between a place that doesn't have a lot of money, that tries to operate properly, and this trash pit. So they just stopped the meeting for about 10 or 15 minutes, have this discussion, which they go, we have to get these books, we don't have much money, so we're going to buy them used, we're going to do it ourselves, we're not going to go through a middleman so we can get as much for our money as we can. And within a month, they have the damn books. So then somebody says, well, why don't you go look at the county annual financial reports? Well, Bellflower's right by the county Office of Education. So I go over and I buy one of these big old fat books because there was no internet back then, okay? You had to go buy stuff. Well, I ended up buying the manuals for all the school districts in almost every county in California. And these fuckers are telling you that the kids are getting funded evilly, and I'm going, bullshit, you bunch of liars. It's so dramatically different, you can't believe it. So I started analyzing all this stuff. And I started having to learn how to read budgets. Right now, I've been through maybe 150 school budgets across the United States, and what I've learned is all these fucking people that tell you they're experts, like the head of the unions and assholes, like these assholes that come in here, they don't know shit. Whether it's government or schools, if you don't know the money, you don't know anything, because you can't take care of anything unless you know the money. They tell you how they're screwing you, but nobody reads the damn budgets. It's the key. These people that were here on the housing. Just like SEIU, they're getting scammed by their leadership. They had no business being down here without studying how this works and why their rents are high. And it's very simple. Let's just go on that point to the agenda item today, where they're saying we're going to look for housing for homeless at $15,560. They've been building for $600,000 to $800,000 a unit, okay? Last night I took the old calculator in the computer, because it does billions of dollars, your normal one doesn't. And I started dividing this stuff. So I divided 600,000 by 15,560. It goes in 34.5 times. I divided it into 800,000. It goes in 54 times. That means that if they'd have been buying this housing for what I gave them the cost 7 years ago, 6 years ago, we housed all the homeless. And we wouldn't be over budget. And what do we find them doing now? They're writing these bonds that are non-voter approved without legally providing how they're going to pay them off as demanded by the state. They started giving us shit. Well, what was in that handout I gave them? The page from the state organization responsible for bonds that says you have to supply this information. Well, why do you think the city attorney is now paying $900,000 for an outside attorney? No, it's because the city attorney is now a defendant because of what we've done. Because they're a part of the criminal activity, because who's advising city council? And because they're a joint powers authority, when it's city council, it's also the board of supervisors. And who else is involved? LADA, city attorney. Who else is involved? Damn, the Superior Court system. Oh, who's the head of the Superior Court system? The presiding judge, Tapia II. And what did Tapia II write me back? We don't give a shit about the law or what judges' roles are.
When did he do
I
that?
got a
Was that
whole
recent?
recently. I got one from the Attorney General stating it's not my job to do what the Constitution says his job is. I got one from Holly Mitchell when she was state senator, Karen Bass when she was congresswoman. George Buzzetti's issues are so serious federally, Karen Bass, go get these into the feds. Within an hour of that email going out, somebody got to them, and 7 years later they won't do a thing. Like with my elder abuse. They tell me I have the worst case of elder abuse they've ever seen. I almost died twice in the last 2 years because the doctor's lying to me. I ended up in an ICU for 5 days with 600 pages of medical documents for 5 days. That's not elder abuse. No. Fuck you. 9 doctors have illegally abandoned me when I need a goddamn kidney taken out. And the fucking fools gave me a serious staph lung infection that's been purposely untreated and lied to me about the results of tests over the last 7 years. Well, I almost puke every morning from coughing and can't have the kidney taken out because if I'm coughing, I'm going to break loose the thing, and because they gave me little blood platelets, I'll bleed to death. I've been in a damn emergency room 5 times in the last 6 weeks. They had me ready for a transfusion the last time. Now this is getting to be absurd because I try to stop fraud by doing the work nobody else does. Who else is doing this financial work? You name me another person, you don't do it. You name me another person that has the goddamn homeless budget and analyzed it. Do you know that they've budgeted to steal 500 people's properties with eminent domain?
I believe it. And that's Karen Price's wife's job. She comes in and helps the community.
I have that because I've been in court with my friend, and the legal arguments I prepared for her for the judge got used again with the LA Times when they did the story on the former receiver. Remember the guy who was running the receiver for the homeless stuff, how we got rid of him? That's because of Mary Jacobs and me. And then I get a call that she died from fentanyl overdose. They found her in a goddamn hole. I got multiple friends that are dead because of these fucking people. I want their ass, but there's only one way you take these people down. You follow the law. You cannot win if you do not follow the law. You can play all these stupid games you want. You think you won, but you never won because you become them when you break it. So if you're bitching about people breaking the law, you go do it yourself. Go spank yourself and go die. That's what I say. You're a worthless pile of crap. You either believe this shit or you don't. And we either make it a lawful society or we're going to be fucked. I suggest everybody go read Suetonius, the 12 Emperors.
What's it called?
Suetonius.
Suetonius.
He was a Roman historian who had access through the emperor to the imperial archives, and he wrote the story from Julius Caesar, the destruction of the Republic, how this all happened. What we're watching right now. What we're watching right now is exactly what happened and how Julius Caesar broke the Republic in Rome. It's all the same game. Hitler used the same program. Mussolini used the same program. And what we have here is a hybrid of Mussolini, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and the Kims of North Korea, if you really look at this. If you know your history.
What do you think
and
about...
if you know your history, you'll also know how all empires crash. And you'll also know that empires normally last about 250 to 280 years. And what date are we coming up on now in the U.S.? Y250. Now, what kind of sick public? This country is fucked for a long time. Because everybody knows politicians are fucked up. But when you have more than half of your voting public that's also sick, you got a sick society, baby. You think anybody's gonna trust this shithole again after this? No way.
What are your
The reason I take this shit is because I know that if I don't take this shit, they're gonna take every bit of my credibility and dump it in a trash can.
What's Y250? That's the question.
Y250?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So it's like, because you said it's Y250. Can you explain that?
Oh, year 250 years after the
250 to 280 years is about the average life through the last 5,000 years of any empire. Because it all comes down to the billionaires. Let's go back to ancient Roman Crassus, okay?
So you're saying America's been here for 250 years? So
Yeah, it's time for us to crash.
Oh, okay, got it.
Through corruption, because it's always the same. The people get soft, the billionaires take over. Do you remember that guy named Crassus of Rome?
Who is Crassus of Rome?
He was the Elon Musk of that time.
American Empire, you mean?
He was the richest fucker there was. But in Rome, you had to have military conquest. So he decided he was going to go fuck the Parthians, who are really some nasty ass people, okay? Or did he fuck it? So the Parthians kept off. And what do? Because they know he's this money guy. Why, they strap him down, pull his mouth open, boil up a bunch of gold, and while he's alive, they pour it down his throat.
Okay.
That's where that movie is from, where
It's a famous story,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's real.
So just so, because people are asking, so what you're saying is that as a nation, we've been 250 years, so we're at the end, it's like...
We either
how-
change our ways or we're going down hard.
Like the Roman Empire.
And we ain't got no friends. Russia
Yeah,
ain't
that's what
our
he said, we're at
friend.
250
China
years.
ain't our friend. North Korea ain't our friend. They're loving this shit. We're in deep shit. So luckily, we've made some contacts recently. They're going to put an end to this. To the highest level. I'm not going to say what it is on this. But it's happened. And that's why I'm not giving them any more documents right now.
So you think there's help coming from a different
I know
source?
there is.
Okay.
Big time. Something they can't deal with.
Okay. Oh. You'll break that story later.
It's, he knows what it is.
With the peace
It's so
accords and
far
stuff?
over their head, there ain't nothing they can do. It's already a done deal.
I agree. Okay.
What are your thoughts on people that hold out hope for the federal government? Because everybody understands when the city and state fail, as far as a lawful society, the federal government truly is the only
As long
way
as
lawfully.
Trumpers in forget the federal government.
Well, even without Trump, for example, what do you think about it as an institution? And I ask that because
Until the Democrats stop being as corrupt as the Republicans. See, here's the problem. I'm going to tell you why Trump got in. And think about this psychologically. People hate liars. Trump is the biggest piece of shit that ever lived, okay, in our history. But he didn't tell a lie about that he's a piece of shit. He told us, right, I'm going to be a fucking bitch, and I'm going to do you a job, and I'm telling you so. And the Democrats, these Democrats here are worse than Trump. And you know why they are? Because they tell you they love you, but they're fucking you like he is. So that's why he won. If people knew what I know, they'd know why they're doing this.
you mean they
These
being
fucks don't want people to know. And these leaders of all these groups, their whole reality is tied up with the income from the state and county and city. For instance, go look at everybody who's on the Sheriff's Citizens Advisory Committee. Go look up who they are.
the Civilian Oversight Commission?
Yes.
Or? Okay. One guy used
And
to be
I'm
an
saying
FBI.
this as an invited partner of the original Citizens Advisory Board, who worked with Baca for 8 years on legislation, me and Celeste being the fourth, the only ones allowed to do that. We held our meetings in the hood at churches where they trusted the pastor, where there was parking right there, where nobody was afraid to go, without masked pigs afraid of the public there, with at least 2 to 3 top undersheriffs there every time. And I videoed those meetings and loaded them on YouTube so everybody can go see this is how they're operated. You can come and have an effect with the top level sheriff. And that's how they were run. Now these new guys, because I asked them, they don't even know that there was a previous one. They don't know that Chemerinsky formed this one. They don't know who paid him, which was the county and sheriffs. And they don't know that I went to Chemerinsky about being a former invited partner to give him some advice, and he told me to fuck myself. Now, he did this down at what is UCI, University of California, Irvine. They bribed that motherfucker to come from the East Coast and spent a fortune to set up a law firm for him. As soon as he does this, what the hell do you think he does? Screw you, I got a better job up at Stanford. Just like our former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. When this Girardi shit hit, because the Supreme Court runs the state bar, the Judicial Performance Commission, they're the ones responsible for this problem. What does she do? She retires so she can keep her retirement pay because she was going down. We've been through this before with Richard Fine, who they put into solitary confinement for 18 months. And when I went to his offices, he had a whole floor of a high-rise in Century City when he was a consul general for Norway. They did that to that guy. When the judge let him out, the very next day the judge resigned so he could keep his goddamn retirement. That's how I know how this game works. This is what happens when you put in 50 years into this. You see enough shit that nobody's really fooling you.
People are asking, were you ever a lawyer?
No, I just fuck lawyers and judges.
He eats them for breakfast, or
I eat them for breakfast. You know, I find it absolutely, astoundingly, so ridiculous that I'm telling judges and lawyers what the fuck is going on and advising inmates. When they throw me, and I've been the oldest person at Twin Towers twice at 67 and 72. And I didn't know that I was as well known as I was until I got in the Twin Towers. I'm in the damn cage and they know who the hell I am.
People were asking, have you ever been thrown in a cage for all this shit?
I have the world record in the cage at 36 hours or more.
Would you call yourself a jailhouse lawyer?
Well, both times all I did was teach everybody evidence law and saved hundreds of cases, including a murder one.
you might know more law than some of the lawyers, right?
Well, I can tell you what the inmates said when they came back from seeing their lawyers after I gave them the evidence law.
You did better than the lawyers.
The first thing I would ask them is, what was the look on their face? Shock. Then the next question was, what happened to your case? Dramatically changed. Oh, gee, they had to supply the evidence. I want everybody to understand this. Do you know how many arrests LAPD alone has made since the 2003 city charter? Over 8 million. 6 million of them misdemeanors. Section 271 of the 2003 LA City Charter says, any misdemeanor committed inside of the city of LA is to only be prosecuted by the city attorney, and that's on the city attorney and LADA's website.
But they wobble them out.
But it's not a wobbler, it's an illegal prosecution because they did that to me. And then when I'm in the jail, I'm asking the inmates, and I'm 100%, they're telling me I got a misdemeanor and it's the DA prosecuting me. And on the outside, the parking lot on the street, I'm getting the same answer, so I'm assuming that we got millions of them.
Yeah,
and
they wobble,
since they
call
kept,
it wobblers.
they're not wobblers.
But they say it though. But
It's not a wobbler.
hate crime too.
No.
You gotta be specific
Yeah.
with the language of what it is and don't intermix the stuff. This is how they take you on a ride.
Yes.
We're getting schooled.
People don't want to deal with facts the way that they really are. It's not a wobbler. That's when you decide you're going to charge this or that. When you're charged with a misdemeanor, they automatically, if it's committed inside the city of LA, the DA cannot touch it. But they give it to the DA.
Can you explain that process of how, like, what is the process? Because that's the confusing part for me.
What?
Is how does the DA justify taking the misdemeanor? Like, what is that process of getting from the city attorney, who's supposed to be doing it, and now it's without being a felony? Like, how does, what's that?
How do they do that?
Yeah, like, that's what I want to know.
Here's what's twisted about the whole thing. These two agencies have been at war with each other over budget and authority because they're building kingdoms, okay? So the question is, why is the city attorney giving this to the DA? What is the dirty deal going on? Now, what I forgot to ask this stupid-ass city attorney today, are you guys aware that I gave him a public information request a couple of weeks ago? Well, the time is up for them to respond. They're not going to respond. The last 3 presiding judges won't respond. The BOS won't respond. LA Unified won't respond. They're all breaking the fucking law. Because when you see my questions, oh, I wouldn't respond to that shit either.
Can you give a sample of what you asked? Because I love CPR.
Oh, for instance, why are you allowing the city attorney to prosecute misdemeanors? I mean, the LADA. Really simple, stupid shit. Because if you listen to me, I ask simple, stupid questions.
But they're brilliant, because that's a good question.
Because that's how you get people to understand shit. Like math. When you see me running heavy math on billions of dollars, you don't hear me using complex formulas and shit. I'll give you a perfect example. When we got called over by the East Side because of the problems with Roosevelt, I remember they had all those principals over there. They had 9 principals. Well, we got a call and we went over. And we found out how crooked all this shit is being run. See, the stupid fucks, I put in a public information request. This is probably why they stopped doing it. And they sent me everything on PLOS, including every F of every student. Well, I happen to know a teacher that spent 20 years over at Roosevelt. So he analyzed that shit while I did the money. Well, we stopped him at Santee from stealing the student funds because the students asked me to teach them how to analyze budgets, which I did. I said, this is a good way for you to learn practical math and protect you and your siblings coming up.
People are asking, did you ever go to school for any of this?
No, I'm self-taught. And it takes a long time to learn it. Budgets is the hardest thing to learn. They do it in so many different forms, and that's the advantage of having done 150, 200 different budgets from across the country. Because it takes a long time to learn what are the important numbers and how do you find them. Like LA Unified's budget can be 700-800 pages. Now, all the information is in there, but they don't give it to you in the form that it's meaningful. I'll give you for instance. Here's what I caught LA Unified. This is gonna blow your friggin' mind. I did a 20-year spreadsheet. And what I found out is, they got more money than they say. I also caught them lying to the state. Because what I did is I took their budget, the big thick one, and then they give that to the county, a different one than they have. And the county gives the different one to the state. The state puts the different one on their website.
How did they reconcile the differences where...
Nobody looks except me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the first... Reconciliation is the first thing that I went to.
That's why
I
they
do
hate
the
ideas so much, 'cause he does that
the
too.
dumbest shit,
That's what they
ask
do.
the dumbest questions, keep it as simple and stupid and dumb as you can get, because that's how you get to the bottom. So here's the game.
I see him doing that stuff now.
There's a number called enrollment. So if you have a kid, you go to school before school starts to enroll your kid. That says, my kid thinks they're going to go to school, okay? But I'm enrolling them because I think they're going to go. Doesn't mean they show up. But you're a number, okay? They're paid on what's called average daily attendance, ADA. Okay? So your kid has to be in the class where they run enrollment for the day. The state pays for every student in school that day per day. That ends up being the total aggregated number at the end of the year, okay? So they can't cheat on the ADA, in other words, what they pay, because then they'd be going to prison. What they do is they lie about the enrollment numbers. So what I found for 6 years is they would put an enrollment number that would show maybe 5%, 4% truant, when it was actually 28 to 30%. LA Unified now has 300,000 students that are on the street becoming criminals, not in school, and they're all the low performers. And they can't even raise their scores when they have the high performers left. Now, if you read the paper just recently in the last day or so, there's a whole bunch of the wealthy schools that have a lot of empty seats, but they're not letting kids from low income go to these better schools.
Yeah. Even though they have very
Now, what the fuck are they passing a $9 billion construction bond for when they can't even put kids in the classrooms they got? We brought in the world experts when they put in those air conditioners. I mean the top guys on the planet, because that's what we always do. We get those guys.
At the school districts?
We got the top air conditioning audio guys on the planet. Actually tested their classrooms against all advice. They put in the ones that would break down, were so noisy, kids can't learn. Okay?
not surprised.
We even have board members walking into these rooms with my friend who was really on this like flies on shit, and they're telling him we can't even hear ourselves talk. Well, how the hell are kids supposed to learn if they can't hear the teacher can't hear them, and they can't hear each other? Then these fucking things break down. Now here's the funny part of this. One of the companies that came after my friend, Bard, they got woke up. They started talking to their worldwide clients. So one day we get a call from our friends that were very disgusted because LA Unified wouldn't do anything about this, and guess what they said? Bard can't supply enough for the new quiet air conditioner. It's all because of use. Now they shit all over him. They tried to take his house. They put him into some of the most serious depression you've ever seen. It's fucking ugly. But we won. Just recently, he didn't sleep for 5 nights because of his depression. And I've been living with him with this because of what they did for 25 years. I want their ass. And not just to get it because of what they're doing. Not just to them.
What did they sue him for?
So many others.
What did they sue him for? What was the claim they made?
What they did is they bought off his attorney. His attorney told him he didn't need to go to a hearing, that he was covered. And they told him, you go take care of your district business. The attorneys didn't show up, and they put it on him. Then he had 13 of the largest construction management firms on the planet, not here, on the planet. And the construction guys that control all construction out of Orange County for Southern California, they got in and went after him. We caught the judge erasing a transcript. Now I figured out how to go back and prove it. I didn't know how to do it then, but I know how to do it now, and I'll tell you how.
Can you still do it though, or is it too late?
Here's for everybody. If you think your transcript's been cut, you know that piece of paper they put in that machine that they type on, people? If that's been cut, you got it. So, if it hasn't been cut, it's still there, which means they scammed us. And if it's cut, they scammed us anyway. They fucked either way.
Explain cut.
But do these people, a continuous piece of paper, it folds. One folds on another like this. So when they type, you have a continuous piece of paper that comes out of the transcriber machine, okay, for the transcriber? And another interesting thing, you know how it's all electronic now, right? Well, just before this came out, I had worked out to do that, and I had a friend, and he'd gotten all the venture capital for us to create that machine. And then I read Time magazine, and I read that somebody had just done it, and I shit my pants.
You mean build the transcribing machine that you use?
I came up with it at the same time they beat me to the punch. We even had the venture capital.
What would you have called it? I know they've named
Didn't
it.
know, didn't care, didn't matter, just make it happen because there's money. I've invented several things. Glass cutting machines. I invented some shit at Lockheed that 10 months later I saw millions of out there. All I got is a letter. You ever seen Teflon tip clamps?
Yes.
That's me.
Interesting. In what?
Gave it to Lockheed.
What sort of clamps to hold?
So they don't mark metal. When you're clamping metal, building planes, you always had to create something. Well, not with a Teflon tip on them.
Well, I gotta ask you, you were with Lockheed and the Valley. Did you by any chance know if Gary Henderson or Henderson?
What did he do?
He worked for Lockheed with the airlines, but he was like that fly too. And he used to bring like he would for a parking ticket. He would subpoena all of LAPD all the way up to the captain.
No, I
He's just
wasn't
your
involved
kind
in
of guy.
that, no. But my dad was Kelly
Car
Johnson's
guy.
flight test engineer from
He used to
1936.
paint the plane. That's what he did. He painted.
No,
them.
I never met those guys.
Okay, but I thought Valley. Okay, I thought maybe you knew. Okay, okay.
But my dad was a major domo there. In fact, they call him at Lockheed, Boeing, and Hughes. My dad is known as an icon of engineering. One of
that's
the
why you got that
top
brain.
motherfuckers that ever existed on the planet.
Who's your father? They're asking.
Charles Buzzetti. He's one of the
That's why
nicest
he's got
people.
that brain.
One of the nicest people you ever meet. He's not like me. No, he was a really nice guy. But then he didn't go through the shit that I went through, you know?
It was a different world back then.
And it was a different world, you know? I got out of aerospace because it changed from a nice situation. To give you an idea, the old Lockheed, before it became corporate, every Christmas they would rent the big hall at the Burbank Park, and they'd bring in a couple of semis loaded with really nice toys. Every person at Lockheed who had a kid, bring your family. Santa Claus was there. Get a picture with Santa Claus. Every kid got a fucking really nice toy. Once a year, Lockheed would rent Disneyland only for Lockheed employees. You get a big discount to go there. How else would 13 people go? Okay, you know what it costs to take 11 kids to Disneyland? Whew. So that's how we got to go to Disneyland every year. But when the corporate bitches took over, fuck you. So at a point, I just got out there. When I left, I had two of the main guys in the building chase me to my car, offering me anything. I said, fuck you. Because I'd started working in stained glass, and I was working 16 hours a day, and it was like, fuck this. I want to control my own life. And I'm free doing this. See, you can't do this work unless you're like me and my friend I live with. He inherited. Okay? Couldn't touch him. My business was to the wealthiest people in the world with Tiffany lamps and shit that would pass as originals at auction. My business was with New York antique dealers dealing worldwide and supplying the parts for original Tiffany's. So they couldn't touch my business. But if you're a normal guy who has a regular job and a wife and kids, you can't do this. You won't have your family. They'll take everything from you. All you got to do is look at what they've done to me and my friend, and how they killed Celeste King IV by making sure he didn't have his heart thing, which is how they tried to take me out originally.
Did you say Sylvester?
Celeste King IV.
Celeste.
Celeste, C-E-L-E-S. There's 4 Celeste Kings. It's the only family in the history of man that for 117 years continues civil rights from 1898. Celeste King III, who founded Core, California, was the most famous Tuskegee Airman. I was at the last reunion. Celeste said, they won't start the meeting unless I come. I'm going, yeah, Celeste, but can I go with you? Yeah. Well, we're outside, we're watching Tom Cruise overflying his P-51, you know, and then when we walked in the door, the minute we walked into that doorway, I watched everyone in that room turn and look at him, and I went, fuck me, it's real. So, the only white people at the reunion were me, a guy who worked where they have all the Tuskegee Airmen shit, and the bomber pilots they saved. Do you know the story about that? You gotta love this. The bomber pilots flying out of Italy, where the Tuskegee Airmen were a bunch of white racist Southerners. And they were really itchy about these black dudes protecting them until they started coming back alive, okay? Then one time when they're flying back, weather fucks up the field they gotta go to, so they gotta spend a week with the Tuskegee Airmen where they had an isolated base. Well, they thought those guys were just a bunch of black niggers, right? Well, they spent a week with them and they're the guys who were saving them, and suddenly they became really tight. What a thrill to see those guys there, and I'm telling you, I am very seldom on. I was blown away being with these people, and I got
What year was this? Like about?
probably 10 years or more ago. It's the last time they ever got together. They're pretty much all dead now.
You
So
mentioned.
you'll love this story
Yeah.
about one of them. So I get a chance to ask. They have this guy up there, and he's the first African American ever allowed to fly a jet in combat for the U.S. right in Korea. And I ended up being in Korea. So I asked him, "Can you tell me the difference in your strategy between fighting the Nazis in Europe and the Chinese and North Koreans in Korea?" You're gonna love the answer. He said, "It's just a plane. Shoot it down." You should have heard the fucking place laugh. Is there a better answer? You're laughing, right? You get it?
I get it.
Is that good?
It's a good, damn good answer.
I mean, we were rolling, laughing. I mean, what a privilege to be with these people that are real heroes, man. Because Celeste King III was involved in, because he was best friends with the guy who ran the Air Force. Okay? And he was involved in our servicemen being treated equally starting in 48. He was also, as a black man, an advisor to Eisenhower, Nixon, and Reagan. His wife, under Reagan, was U.S. Representative for Women worldwide. They had Gaddafi at their house for a party before he took over Libya. And through that, when he died, we had 3 or 4 African countries and several Caribbean countries. We had an open invitation to go there and help him. We were in the middle of a new financing for housing, financed with $500 billion of startup cash from insurance companies when he died, where you didn't need credit, just ability to pay. And you had to put it into a trust. And the only way they could pull this off was Celeste was the only one with the connections federally and statewide to pull everything off, including the Cayman Islands. Because this guy knew every fucking buddy. What some of us think is, he purposely didn't tell me some things, and that's probably why I'm still alive, because as soon as he died, everything went to hell. Everybody I'd worked with turned out to be the enemy. My family told me to die. People who were my friends told me to die. I started getting charged with illegal charges. One time they threw me in the Twin Towers. They threw me with over 100 gangsters to be beaten to death. The fucking sheriffs are sitting at the window.
In LA?
Yeah, here in the Twin Towers. Waiting to see the action. But you'd love what happened. The 6 leaders stand up and go, George, come and talk with us. Now, I didn't say anything, but I'm going in my head, how the fuck do you guys know me? So I walk over and go, hey, well, what's up, dudes? Well, they tell me that they're basically having trouble with evidence. So all the pigs are watching. I don't get beat to death. I teach all these inmates evidence code. And then they can't take that any longer, so they throw me in with the white guys. Well, guess who the white guys were? The only other white guys in there were heroin addicts from Skid Row. And amazing, that cell was 10 degrees warmer. I'm serious. I mean, Celeste told me, because he'd been in federal prison a bunch of times. You know, we're pretty experienced motherfuckers, okay? Way more than you could ever imagine. George, you really need some time in jail so you know why you're doing what you're doing. Oh, Celeste, But you know what? It wasn't until after I got out the second time that I went, you know what? You really knew what the fuck you were talking about, bud. Because since I spent time in jail, I really understand a hell of a lot more about why I do what I do. Because one of the things that I ran into in there is these inmates, 25 to 30, let me run down some stats for you. 8 million arrests since 2003. There's 4 million residents in the city of LA. That means every elderly person and every little baby essentially was arrested twice. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's to one very small group of people, because I met too many guys, 25 or so, who put in there 20, 25 times already. None of them ever had their evidence. None of them ever had procedure right. Illegal prosecutors. And they didn't know till I taught them. Well, I know how it works in the jail, because when they start sending these guys through there, they start telling other people. Right?
When you're saying with the evidence, you're saying that their lawyers aren't like making the prosecutor.
They're
do
public
their job
defenders, and they
properly.
did to them what they did to me. They lied.
Okay.
They just lie. I got one on that.
You want to do the last releasing notes?
It's
Honestly, talk all you want.
this thing is just so corrupt, so nasty.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, and I found very interesting.
Yeah.
You said, yes, it's bad, but the silver lining, interestingly enough, is that their not just livelihood, but their entire life is tied up in state money.
These outside nonprofits and such.
Not just that, but even city officials is tied into,
Every worker,
yes.
every outside agency. Like I was starting to tell you, go into the Citizens Oversight Committee. But look at who the fuck they are. Not one of them has worked in the hood unless they're making money from these guys. Now, who's asked you have to kiss if your whole life depends on them? Why do you think Core California and George Buzzetti never took outside money? Do you know how we work legislate? Do you know why we could do things that legislators couldn't do? Because we're the only ones not paid by somebody and had actual expertise and knowledge of the subject and weren't perverted by anyone.
That is rare for sure these days.
We could go into Democrats and Republicans with credibility.
They all need like the NASCAR jackets to see who's the sponsor.
Do you know we were spending out of our pocket to do this? Celeste was driving 100,000 miles a year, spending 3 days a week for 8 years in Sacramento every fucking week. That's where we were coming from.
Sounds a
Do you
lot
know
like us
anybody
today.
else that'd do that unless somebody's porking them? No way. And then what are they going to do? The people that are porking them, that's the message they're going to spread, not the one they got. Or you got no more. Like one of the guys that was with us, a Hispanic dude. You see the Celeste guy? He told me to fuck off so he could keep his jobs. So he could bullshit everybody. How do you think I got SEIU $15 an hour? I organized them while I was locked up in the mental hospital. Okay? And then a friend of mine ran in front of the Board of Supervisors and said, well, you got George Buzzetti in there for 10:30 in the morning? Well, judges are telling me you're never going to see the outside of a mental hospital for the rest of your life. And at 3:30 that afternoon, a new shrink comes and says, how would you like to go home tomorrow? Well, where do you think I was the very next Board of Supervisors meeting? Down there with the budget book showing them $800 million they got while their leadership lied to them like these leadership lied to these people in here. How do they not know that it's linked, what the shit costs to make is directly linked into everything? Do you know what the biggest problem is with the homeless game? Listen to this. We spoke on that issue of $15,560 per unit, right?
Right.
Well, those people today didn't understand that if it costs that much, what's the payment per month next to 54 times more? By agreement with the developers are guaranteed a profit, which means that money has to be covered plus a piece for profit, right? Who's paying for that?
It's getting subsidized.
Over 50 fucking years. At what increased rate?
Yep.
So those people, and that guy was so fucking brain dead that I was talking to. No wonder I got pissed off at him. Do you know what he told me?
Pumpkinhead.
He said,
Yeah, Pumpkinhead.
it's not linked what I pay in rent to what it cost the man to put up the unit. Oh, really, fuckhead? You mean to tell me that when you go to Motel 5 or 6, you're paying the same as in a 5-star hotel? Hmm? I don't
And
think
in the
so.
homeless area, yeah, in that arena they did during COVID.
But they're building for homeless at $1,000 a foot, which is what it takes
Yeah.
for a 5-star. Now, how do you tell a working person you're going to give a luxury unit to a guy who doesn't work? No. Do they deserve a place to live? Yeah. At 125 square feet? No, they deserve more than that. And we can give it to them if they buy the right thing. Which this issue wouldn't be here unless we've been beating the fuck out of them. You see, they got a lesson in that federal court last Thursday. Let's go into why Karen Bass and Marchese, that bitch that runs city council, didn't show up. But Barger did, because the judge pointed it out.
Barger seems to be the only one that's maybe decent. I don't know.
What was the case?
I can tell you some stories I'm not going to put on this.
What was the case that you were talking about? The case of Barger. What was the case name? Something v
She's
something.
my supervisor.
No, you're asking. No,
The
she's a
federal
piece
the
of
federal
shit.
case. No, the federal case.
Oh, what I was talking about is Barger was there because she knew that the judge wanted to do a deal because there was a deadline of the 30th. If that gets passed, there's a potential that judge could be taken off the case. So the reason that Bass and Marchese didn't show up is an attempt to delay it some because they couldn't do the deal with Barger as a joint powers authority, right? If they're not there with the judge. Well, the judge knew they were doing this, and he put his foot down on it hard. Now, who did I sit with? Just for fun. It's been so long since I've been to the Board of Supervisors. I feel stupid. I forgot who Barger was. I remembered that I thought that she was somebody different than that. But I was wondering, why won't she look my way? Until I heard her name called and I went, oh, that's why she did that when I walked in the room. And then she sees me sit with all her lots of people. So she's going in her schemy little brain, correct. He's listening to all this shit, but what she doesn't also know is I'm telling him what I got on him. And I'm telling those people straight, looking them in the eye like I do with the gurus. You are fucked. You are finished. Do you understand? I got the goods on you.
Is it going to eventually bring the FBI going to come down and with this homeless thing, with the scams and all? Or are they going to just keep getting away with it?
I got these people locked up so many ways right now, it's not even funny.
I think what she's asking is, do you believe martial law will be implemented in LA?
Or that right, or even that the FBI is going to come knocking, like, because Go Pepper's always
No,
saying they're
no,
going to come knocking.
no. Trump is going to try martial law to take power, but not over this issue. No, they couldn't do it over this.
No, but I mean, but even just the FBI coming in, like they did with
Yeah, they're going to come in, and they should.
Yeah, like are people going
Do
to
you know who refused to do anything about it? Merrick Garland under Biden. I went to them. I got the refusal letter, man. You know?
Well, I think what she's also asking is something I asked earlier, which is, we always talk about when there's a failure of the city, you can rely to some degree on the state. When
You can't anymore.
Yes, when that fails, then
There's
you
no
hope.
feds, there's no state, there's us. That's it.
That's
And
what
the
she's really
federal court,
asking.
okay?
That's what she's really asking.
And there's another option I'm not going to tell you about that you won't believe when you find out.
That's what she's really asking.
I'm not telling you.
Also, are there who's the next? Well, Karen
I've
Price
worked
is
too
in court
hard to
now.
get this thing
I
in
wanna
this
know who the next
position.
ones to end up to in Weezer's position. You know, even if
They're
it's,
all in it.
I know, but who's going to go to jail? Who's going to be the
Here's the problem. What's the maximum amount of money, if anybody, they've taken down? $2.5 million? Weezer?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even look at that amount of money. Because it's punk money. I talk about the real money.
The power structures are all in cahoots with that,
They
right?
don't want to deal with the big shit.
Right.
He's talking about assets,
I have been
not
to
just cash.
every goddamn news organization in this country.
People are asking, have you ever
I
been to
have
the East
been
Coast?
to every single elected official in LA County and city. The governor, attorney general, head of the Senate, head of the Assembly, the heads of each pertinent committee. I have these people in writing going, we don't give a fuck about the fraud and theft of any kind. Unlike all these other fools that just talk shit.
People are asking,
They don't
you
have nothing. All
you
they
ever-
got is a bunch of bullshit out of their mouth. It's called hearsay. That is not evidence. I run evidence. Incontrovertible evidence.
I want to see him doing presentations like a Mahia. You're like the.
I brought my computer here just for fun after we get done with this. Or maybe I should open up right now so you can take a little screenshot. We won't open them. But I'll show you how much I found up to 7 years ago telling these fucks. I got more video of me, Herman, and Wayne telling them about this shit 7 years ago, and documents with full analysis presented to these fucks. They got no way out, do you understand? And this shit's already off to the people. They're gonna fuck them.
Who's going to be the first to go? Who's the first to go down?
All.
They're all going to go down together?
what people are,
I set things up hardcore. When you've done this long enough, you know how to do it.
I can't wait to see it. Like, I'm looking forward
It's
to seeing
taking
it.
time.
what people are asking is it going to be civil RICO by action of civilians rather than awaiting for?
Yes, it's going to be because of what the few of us are doing.
Okay.
That's what people are really asking.
That's
So it's gonna be
forcing.
Civil
That's-
rather than criminal, you're saying?
Well, that's the interesting thing with RICO. RICO is a criminal act that predicates a civil violation.
RICO is organized crime, to be
Right.
specific. Hobbs Act is government corruption. Bain Act is civil rights, and SLAPP is illegal prosecutions to keep you out of the public.
Right.
So they're all caught up in all of these. And then I have 3 pages of
Can you say
penal
them
codes
again?
they
Oh,
file.
sure. Can you say them again? Just so I want to clip that as a clip. Those.
Explain
It's-
the 5 statutes.
Yeah.
The problem that they have run into federally is RICO, organized crime, okay? Connected to organized crime, when you have governments, especially more than one person or organization, is Hobbs Act. Hobbs Act is government corruption, okay? They're linked, right? The RICO enters them into government corruption. When you come down into state law, you run into Bain Act, which is civil rights, which they're violating, okay? And you have SLAPP, which is where they prosecute you illegally to keep you out of the public, to prevent you from doing anything. And this is how the game works. They don't care about elder abuse. You heard what I said in there.
Or ADA abuse,
They don't care about none of it. No.
child bride.
Look, they just paid $4 billion because they allowed 6,800 youth to be sexually abused. What I want to know is, and we need to ask them this question, are you prosecuting those abusers? And if not, why not? Right? We should all agree that child sex abusers should be fucked. Especially if they're government employees. I don't care who they are.
But they're not doing it against anyone.
But if you're an official organization, you're worse. Or if you're in a position of power, it's worse. So like a church does it because they use the psychological power that they have over you being a believer. Government uses their physical and legal power. But they're essentially the same thing to a normal person who does not have it in themselves to stand up because they don't know how to. So let's get back to what I was starting to talk about earlier about being in jail when I sat and started talking to these guys. What I learned is, and I learned this from an old friend of mine who went to school in the 30s, okay, he was a Hispanic guy, who was very successful in business, and one of the first people to win the poker championship at the Commerce Casino. So it was a pretty damn good card player, okay? He made a lot of money playing poker. He used to get 30, 40 grand in the trunk and probably 100 in the safe at the shop, just in case he needed it. They used to tell Al, "You're just a stupid Mexican, you're gonna be nothing." When I'm talking with these guys in the jail, nobody ever, their families, their parents, their neighborhood, their schools, they just told them, "You're just a goddamn loser." So I said to them, "Do you guys know what and we can't get no jobs because we all got felonies and stuff." That came up because this guy said, "Oh, I'd like to be a cop," and everybody started laughing. "With your record, you couldn't be a cop." I said, "Do you guys know what a Cadillac mechanic makes?" "Nah." "How about a bill 20 a year?" Ding! These eyes pop wide open, okay? I said, you can have that job with a felony." I got their real fucking attention now. Now you guys know that you're going to be going out. You're going to be going into these drug rehab places, right? And you know which ones where they let you do whatever you want, and which ones they don't, right? Yep. Well, what you do is you get into one where they don't let you do anything, and you go sign up at Adult Ed, and you get yourself into an auto shop class. Would you stop banging if you could make 100 plus a year? Fuck yeah. Okay. Nobody'd ever told him that you can be a winner. Now we have 300,000 fucking kids out of LA Unified on the street. They're operating in the gang. How are you going to make any money? Do you see what they're doing to our society?
People say that incarcerated individuals are, in fact, the largest and probably the easiest base to organize because you have ready access to them and they all have legitimate grievances.
Well, I did that in there, and just like I did with our homeless people at the court. Were you guys weren't at court, were you, Thursday?
No.
Okay, I was. Well, there were a bunch of homeless people that were invited there by the plaintiffs, the guys that sued, the businessmen. But they don't have their 2 cents in this case. Is that absurd? So guess what I did? I organized the homeless to go get the stories from the people they live with so that it's not adulterated by the assholes from LASA, right? Because anything they got is fucking perverted. But I have the ability to get those stories into the judge along with this information, right? Guess what's gonna fucking happen? This judge is really a good dude. And when he finds out what I know about the stealing money, and he gets the personal stories of what's happened to these people psychologically, personally, physically through all these years, you think that a guy who gives a fuck ain't gonna be affected? He's gonna explode. And the way I'm posting, what I'm posting online? Come watch City Council Tuesday today at 10 o'clock. We're gonna blow them down. I'm putting it all over the fucking web and at places where people go in mass quantities.
What's your website?
Fraudbuster.org. And videos are George Buzzetti YouTube. There's 750 videos up. You can go watch us presenting this. Me and Herman, that guy that they've kicked out, you can watch us presenting this.
Oh, that'd be great.
To these fools in 2019.
Really?
How are they going to say they never knew? You can't believe how many videos I have of
And
this.
that's on the George Buzzetti.
I just went up
Channel.
last night. I just started. I mean, I got 750. I went through maybe 50, 60, and I found so many. I just stopped. I went, fuck, I don't need to go any further.
We need to go look at that. Oh, there's some good history.
It's ridiculous. We set them up. It's long-term setups.
And Go Puppet too.
It's over their head. They can only deal with this second. And then what's somebody telling me to do next? Think about it. I've been doing this for more than 50 years. That's longer than they've been alive, any of them. You don't have the background, bitch. Who the fuck do you think you're fucking with? And I got the core California knowledge too.
I have to look into that.
I'm the only white motherfucker I've ever allowed in that black organization.
Explain to people, what is Core California?
Congress of Racial Equality of California, founded by Celeste King III, the most famous Tuskegee Airman, the guy who got MLK Boulevard named that, who was one of the chief people after the riots to stop the game. The guy who started the MLK parades, that's their family.
He's like a king, Martin Luther King. nephews or
Same name, but long before MLK was the Celeste Kings.
Okay, so they're not related. It's just
No, but they knew each other real well. In fact, Celeste King IV, you know the Pettus Bridge, where John Lewis was beat up? You guys don't know about the Pettus Bridge?
No.
Where they,
You don't mean John L. Lewis, the union
Yeah.
guy?
the,
The union guy?
no. The legislator, John Lewis.
Oh, okay, 'cause John L. Lewis.
Where they got all beat to shit on that bridge in Alabama. My buddy was there that day. He said, I'm lucky I was at the back because it was really bloody up front. They put the dogs on him. They beat the fuck out of him. And Celeste spent a week doing nothing but writing bail bonds, getting people out of jail. His dad was the first person ever to start writing bail bonds for civil rights leaders nationally, starting in 1948. You're talking about real history here, man. Consistent. See, if you don't have a consistent game, why should these fucks be afraid of you? If you don't know your shit and you're not consistent, they couldn't give a fuck what you say. If you get up there and speak and you don't hand them paper, fuck you. It ain't no hard copy. Nobody's going through that video, baby. But if you hand them paper,
How can you, are you able
it has to go in the hard file.
So how do you do, I mean, just as a quick question, like just for procedure, how do you do that? Like say if you wanted to put in
You
some
prepare
paper-
documents
Uh-huh.
and you hand them to the cop
Okay.
and they give them to the city clerk and they have to put them in the hard file with their shit. So your shit becomes the only opposition in the file, but it's there.
It's good to
So
know.
if it ever comes back, nobody has to go through videos or nothing. The documents are in the place and they hate it. So why do you think they just get up there and talk your shit off? Fuck you. They couldn't care less. Now those people today, they know there's a bunch of backing on this rent thing. But they know they got them by the balls because those fucks weren't listening to what I said. Because they think, like renters think they don't pay property taxes. You dumb fuck. Whatever the increase is, you're paying that plus a piece because the guy that owns it is going to collect a piece
Once they have a
because he has to pay for it.
They have a fee every year just to live in an apartment.
What's that?
They have a fee every year just to live in an apartment. They have an annual fee you have to pay just to
I'm
live in
talking
an
about
apartment.
property taxes. When there's a property tax increase, all these renters think that they don't pay. No. The guy is allowed to increase your rent and appease and pass it on.
Kind of like when they raise the wage to $30, the hotel owners are going to pass
These
that
people
on
are
too.
saying give us 3%. Well, where do you think the money's coming from, fools? The place is broke. I just want it. I want what I want. And it's, you know, you stupid fox. Why do you think this country's fucked up? You got a bunch of silly ass fucking piece of shit babies. That's all they are. The public are a bunch of fucking little babies. There's no land of the brave in this shithole except the few that are standing up. Look at what they're doing in Romania and those places next to these fucking chicken shit little babies here. Have you been watching the news? What's going on over there?
One of my best
A
friends.
lot people want to know, what do you think of Kenneth Mejia,
Who's that?
the city controller?
Well, I've been to him too. Let's see what that fucking bitch does. He got the public information request too.
He never answered me. He's like, we don't have that info. Everyone
But
I've
that
ever met.
means that I got him by the balls because they're breaking the law again. So because of the setup that's gone into place, just because if there's one thing you learn when you do this for a long time, if you go someplace, if you don't go someplace, you have no opportunity. When I went to federal court, I had no plan except somehow I'm going to meet some people that I need to meet. And by accident, I met a guy that was asked to drive 2,000 miles to be in that court by the judge's best bud. And now, it's party time.
Can't wait for it to go.
But it's all in the setup.
Why do you think people that are lawyers are too stupid to use cases like this and make money off of it?
I know exactly why. Because we've investigated why, after going through more than 200 attorneys, that I can't get anybody, including somebody that knows everybody from before Reagan got in. And what she was told is two things. I'm blackballed. Nobody will touch me.
That's hard.
Fear.
Because they know you know.
And yet, who did I learn my shit from? You ever heard of an attorney that's got off 3 guys that admitted killing a cop in a major coke deal? That's who I learned from.
Who is that?
Robert N. Harris.
Robert N. Harris? Interesting.
Oh, he's gone. But he's also heavy-duty national security. Through him, I put together some shit they still don't want to admit about the SR-71 drone. It took me years to put it together. He was telling me I used to overfly Beijing all the time. And how the fuck did you overfly Beijing and not get shot down? Well, now I know I knew what base he was on. But damn, that's where the SR-71's operated out of. By damn, that's right next to China. By damn, they say they never use those drones. Fuck you, they were. He was analyzing that shit daily.
Was this United States v. Harris 2009? Or is this a different Harris?
No, he wasn't involved in that. But they did tell him, after my case and that case, that if he didn't stop criminal law, they were going to totally destroy him. So he had to go to international business and had to, when you called his office, if you were a former client, he would never talk to you. That's how deep it goes.
So he was getting into like stepping on some heavy duty toes way up.
In my case, and another case, yeah.
Was it this one, the officer planting drugs? back in 11? Costa Mesa officer?
Actually, the undercover cop hit a load of coke and then pulled a gun, and the guys were faster than the cop. So they blew the cop away, not knowing he was a cop. Then then the other guys just blasted in the room, right?
So he didn't know it was a cop?
Listen to how you're gonna love how he did this. The judge and the prosecutor were so sure they had him on murder one. Harris taught me how to do investigations, okay? So he knew what these cops didn't know. So he convinced the judge and the prosecutor to stipulate to a murder one charge only, and they did. In other words, you get them for murder one or you get them for nothing, right? Well, after they did that, they only served 4 years. They had to plead guilty to importation, not killing. He not only got a big check here, he got a big bonus too in an offshore account. That's how shit really works.
Well, that's a lot. That's some pretty heavy stuff in
And in
I
my
was like,
case,
I'm sorry, I can't even.
and in my case, they
try
put
to-
me down as the head importer of coke from Mexico and Colombia, and I had to live with that for 15 years. And I'll tell you what, it is not fun. You will not believe what these people will do. How do you think I survived through this shit? I've been living through this for 50 fucking years now of assholes trying to take me out. And now they're trying to take me out physically.
People are asking, have you ever been to the East Coast? Or is
No.
it just primarily here that you do this work?
I've done everything here. Schools and stuff. I pay attention to everything internationally. I read 9 papers a day. I have emails with all the top national security shit. I know what's going on with military hardware, how they do everything. These people think I work in the government or something. See, once you get on these lists, they all glom on. They all want to send you everything. Weapons systems. You've heard enough out of me. I can't talk the shit to you that I'm talking without knowing something, right? Then there's way more than that than what you ever heard. It's really extensive.
That's true.
Well, this is just a...
He's way up.
And guess what they call me in court records?
What's that?
What
Encephalopathic,
is that?
psychotic, gravely disabled, dementia.
Dang.
Do I seem like that
Oh,
guy?
you seem like you're very much in charge of your faculties.
This is what they do.
They try to label you and
Cedar Sinai strapped me down when I went there for medical care. Do you know anybody that's ever been strapped down? Do you know what that's like? I'm on the phone talking to my bud I live with. 12 guys in big rubber things with big rubber gloves and face masks and everything run in the room at one time. One guy in each arm, one guy in each leg, a bunch of guys in the middle of your body, other guys grabbing your computer, other guys grabbing your phone, on the bed, bam! You're like this. Then they take a big old horse needle and wham! Didn't put me to sleep. I stayed up for 36 hours.
God.
And can you imagine my personality laying there for that long, stretched out like that? And why do you think I did? Because if I didn't, I knew I was fucked. But I knew enough that I could demand a new shrink, and I did. And then my bud shows up, and we convinced her, and she let me walk out the door. Only what do? They throw me out the door on drugs with no money and no transportation. Here's what they do. We can't let you get hurt while you're in our facility, so we have to put you in a wheelchair. Let's say this piece of marble here is the doorway, right? They take the wheelchair and they put the front wheels just over the doorway, so you step onto city property when you get out of the wheelchair. And then get the fuck out of here. Now, 8 of the 9 doctors who've abandoned me lately, will I need a kidney removed, are seniors doctors. I was set up before I had my kidney taken out to do a renal game where they check how good each kidney's working. I called the day before. Do I need to like not eat before? You know, a lot of times they have a deal like that where, you know, you don't eat and you don't do this, you don't drink or whatever, you know, don't have coffee, don't have tea, only have water. You know, there's all these rules. We don't have you scheduled. We never had you scheduled. What the fuck? The guy who's supposed to take out my kidney was supposed to set up the lung doctor, heart doctor, and stuff. Last Monday I was supposed to have my kidney out. Well, I could bleed to death with no doctors, no scan.
That's crazy. Can't we get him to like...
A doctor cannot get rid of you without a written notice. Return receipt. Signed. They don't do that. Who the fuck do you think is telling them they can get away with it? These fucks and the courts. You think... One of these doctors, do you know where his office is? 1 block off of Rodeo Drive. Now what fucking district do you think that is?
Beverly Hills.
So, and these guys are published. Written books, invented kidney machines to clean your blood while you're walking around, not sitting in a chair. Those kind of guys. They risk their license, their freedom, and every penny they own with a bitch like me doing this. So who's telling them they can get away with it? Think about what power does it take to do this?
Pretty high up. People want to shut you off.
Yeah, that's all I have to think about.
I'm dying right now. No, I am. I don't give a fuck.
Well, let's hope it's on city property here at the council.
That's what I'm doing. I want to. If they're going to do this, I want to die while I'm speaking, so I can get them with a murder one.
Make sure we
You understand?
I that's why I keep coming, just so we can capture that very moment.
Oh, but
You want to fuck with me?
where you live?
I'm gonna put it right in your motherfucking face, bitches.
Where can I do surgery for him? Oh, we need to keep
The crowd loves you. I will cut it off at there,
No,
but
they don't want me around.
George Buzzetti, everybody. I'll let you go on audit stream.
Fuck this.
That's a great ending. I caught it off at fuck this.